Hello, gentlemen. Welcome to another Alchemy Answers. This is episode 7. I'm here with Donnie. He's finally back from his parents, and we have some questions to answer. So let's get right into it. Donnie, how's it going?
Pretty good, man. It's been a rough couple days, travel and stuff, but I am excited to be talking about Dota again. Being away from the game has made me more motivated to put out content. So
I know how it feels, man. Let me tell you, I just made a video about what was it? Abusing. There's a part of it where I'm talking about kind of abusing that feeling, that like itch that you get to play Dota. You know, you go away to like a cottage for 2 weeks, you come back and you just want to play. It's actually like super broken to play Dota during those periods because wanting to play is just so good at making you think actively about the game. Anyway, let's get into the goddamn comments and questions because that's something else.
okay. So first one is, as a carry, how do I win the lane in this current meta? We've had a lot of people complaining about how to win the lane as a carry these days.
Yeah. Okay, you don't. Donnie, you want to go next question? No, I'm just kidding. Winning the lane, I would say that like there's a large degree of supporting that needs to be done. It's kind of a little bit on your 5 roll. Well, it's a dual lane most of the time, so I definitely say there's a lot on the 5 roll. You want a hero that can keep them at bay, you know, like a Crystal Maiden, something like that, and you can get some farm while they're healing up from the harass. That's like one way of dealing with it. You have the Warlocks where you can heal and you can farm. And then there's also heroes that you can pick that are going to basically do that in the carry role, but it typically is not going to be a hero that's actually a carry-esque hero. I've seen a lot of high-rated carries. They're not picking these typical carries. If they are picking a typical carry, it's because it's really good in the lane against the particular hero. So the picks really matter. But if they're not picking, if they can't do that, then they'll pick something like a Necrophos or a Venomancer or a Bloodseeker, something that's going to get something no matter what. So basically, I think that if you're having problems in the safe lane, it's probably as a result of picks for the most part. And worst case, if you do find yourself in a situation where you are losing that lane, it's very likely because that's the lane that's meant to lose. And in Dota, you're never going to win all 3 lanes, and if you do, it's because there's a lot of outskilling or like a total outdraft, and that happens so infrequently. So I would definitely say that if worst case you can't do anything, then just sit there, get XP, go jungle, like do literally whatever it is that you can, you know, pull the wave, and just don't feed. And that's your job in that game. Is to not feed. Sometimes that's the off lane, sometimes that's a mid lane, sometimes that's the safe lane. There's going to be a losing lane, and a lot of the time now it's the carry lane. And I know that a lot of carries don't know how to deal with that because that hasn't been the carry lane for a long time, but it now is. And the way that we deal with it as these other roles is you pick better heroes to actually destroy the lane, or you just get what you can get without feeding as much as possible because you got to trust the other lanes to do their job as well.
Yeah, that pretty much sums it up. I guess one thing I just wanted to add is that if you're ever having a hard lane and a hard game, just kind of like scale back your expectations about what you should be doing on your hero, and also in the drafting phase, like scale back your expectations. Play heroes that are very simple and straightforward and can do stuff on their own and survive on their own, especially in a pub environment where you're maybe not going to have the best support. But basically, yeah, just like as laning focused as Dota is, in a pub environment, especially like below probably like 6 or 7k, like the laning phase, well, it is very important and you do want to win the laning phase, people are going to make a lot of mistakes throughout the course of the game, so you can still come
That's
back
true.
into games. So don't just like assume that because you're having a hard lane that you're going to lose the game. It's more of like, if you have a hard lane and you feed, then you will absolutely lose the game. And if you can just have a hard lane and just like tank the shit for your team, then you usually can actually come back into games with the space that's created later on.
There's actually something I want to. Sorry for interjecting, but it's something I do want to say here. You're completely right. There's actually a meta where there are people that are picking just to win team fights and then losing every lane and then winning team fights in the mid game. Like, depending on your heroes, even if you lose all the lanes, even if you trust your team to win the other lanes and they feed, you can still win the game by virtue of just being a better team fight lineup or being a better split push lineup. It's just about recognizing like what your lineup is good at doing. If you lose the lanes and you're worse at everything than the enemy team, then you're probably screwed unless they mess up, which they will. But you know, sometimes it's really hard. But a lot of the time, your draft is actually a lot better at doing things outside of the lanes. And you just have to get to that point without feeding as much as you can. Anyway.
All right, let's do a quick one after that, which is need an update on TA. They nerfed traps. Is TA still viable?
Yeah, I mean TA is definitely still viable. I think that the trap damage was just too high because it's something that they recently implemented. But the fact that she can put up like 12 traps or something means that it doesn't really matter if she has to use 2 traps to kill a wave. And I don't even think she does, because by the time she gets
I think at
the
level
trap,
3, it does kill a full wave, right? If you have
yeah, well,
the talent plus level 3 traps.
yeah, I was playing TA. I was playing TA the other day, and I noticed that the level 1 with the talent did not kill the wave. But it depends on like what point in the game you're at, because the creeps get more and more HP. But I would say that, yeah, I mean she's still perfectly fine, because I mean even if she's not capable of like farming that wave, if she can get a bunch of damage on it, that's still really broken. But I do think that when she's level 3, which is level 3 in the trap, it still kills the full wave. And obviously TA gets insane amounts of levels in the game, so I think it's fine. It's just a nerf to her early game, basically, because it honestly did way too much damage. Like, she gets 6 and you have to have a sentry in lane or you die. Like, that just wasn't fair. It was already kind of like that for TA, but now she has this 300 damage nuke. Are you kidding me?
Yeah.
So yeah, I think TA is still really good.
Yeah, I mean, nothing else really changed about the hero other than she
No,
just is
no.
less broken.
Yeah,
So.
basically.
Okay, so next question is, what if you're in the mid lane and you keep getting ganked? So it's like a 3v1 mid lane, for example. You're getting ganked by both supports, or they're camping the lane, and they kill you a couple times, and your side lanes are also losing their lanes, even though most of the resources are being dedicated to shutting down you.
That's a good question. I think that goes back to the stuff that we talked about with the carry role. I think we already kind of went into the topic, but just to reiterate, I think that if you're losing all the lanes in Dota and they're dedicating a lot to the mid lane, then what you can do is you can just say, okay, we're losing all lanes, so there's no point in going to these lanes, right? So you need to change something, and what you can change to actually get an efficient uh, use of the map is to send like a Pudge or whatever your support is that needs the most levels, send them mid, and then take your mid hero and go jungle. And sure, you'll get less than you would by going in that mid lane, but your Pudge is going to get way more, and you'll still get something in the jungle. And then you're not feeding, the Pudge is feeding, and who gives a shit if like a Pudge or a Lion or something like that is feeding. And that way, the total gold that you're getting, the total experience that you're getting will be much greater than it was before. It's just that you'll be getting a little bit less because the jungle is shittier than the mid lane. But obviously, like I said, that's better than feeding a bunch of gold into somebody when you're a very important hero. So a lot of the time, you can actually end up getting a lot more by going to the jungle. And then your Pudge, obviously, like your Pudge or your Lion, they're clearly going to get more because they're getting a free mid lane. And if the enemy team is still dedicating resources to kill a Pudge, well then, let them. That's great. That's fine. That's what he wants. So that's just the way. The worst thing that you can do is just stay in the same situation and wonder why nothing is changing, because like you have to make that change yourself.
Yeah, I think another thing that is really important to note is that if there are like 2 or 3 heroes in the mid lane, and you basically just like sit on your side of the river and then you just keep the creeps off the tower, you will end up getting like a 2 or 3 level advantage on their mid laner like pretty quickly, just because of the nature of splitting experience. And so even if you have like half of the last hits that the other hero has, Dota scales in kind of an interesting way where most heroes tend to spike early based off of levels, and then they spike off of items, and then they spike off of levels again, and then they spike off of items again. So it's like if you are Alina, for example, and you're being camped by 2 heroes and you literally cannot go into the river, otherwise you die, then you can just kind of get your level 6 just by being around the creeps and trying to get as many just not denied creeps as possible. You don't even have to get the last hits. And then once you hit level 6, you literally just run bottom and you kill their carry for free. And then maybe you go hit some jungle camps, and then you do what Jenkins said, and you say, hey, one of the supports just go here. And now you're a level 6 Lina that has the ability to kill anybody on the map, and their mid hero is level 4, And so then now that you've killed their carry, the supports go back bottom, and now you're a level 6 Lina facing a level 4 mid hero, and then you kill them, and then you
Sometimes you actually end up with a support that's higher level than the mid laner too.
Yeah.
Like you can actually get a support to be a core, which obviously if that's Pudge or something and he has core levels, that's obscene. It's so good. So Lion too. Any of these heroes, any of these support heroes can actually function really nicely if they get levels. So you can actually win games by doing that. Period. You don't even have to be in like a shitty scenario. If you can jungle fast, that's a good thing to do a lot of the time.
Yeah.
Or if you can go gank bot, like Donnie said, if you can go gank, then go for it. Give a support the lane.
I mean, I think one of the biggest things that a lot of people struggle with, especially like, I think it's worse the lower you go in MMR, but I see it across like the entire spectrum, is that people just have like this need to be the star of the show all the time. And sometimes it's just not viable. Sometimes it's better for you to just not be the star, and you'll win games if you can just like put your ego aside for a minute and just like, be the fifth or sixth net worth hero as the carry or as the mid hero, and just kind of do your job and don't give up, and you'll very likely do pretty well because those resources will be distributed somewhere else on your team in like 90% of cases.
Dota's a game of space. Like if you look at competitive replays, especially with like the tier 1 teams, you'll see that there's not just space being made for the carry, there's not just space being made for the mid or these heroes like farming resources. It's everybody. Like for example, like a Slardar Blink is much more important than like an Invoker drums. You know what I mean? Like so, there's certain timings where there are actually heroes on the map that become the carry. Like your Crystal Maiden might have the highest farm priority because she's very close to a Glimmer Cape, for example. There's a lot of magical damage on the enemy team, so it's just a game of like giving and taking space to the right heroes, and a lot of the time giving that mid lane, giving space to the Pudge or to the Lion or whatever support is actually better for winning the game. It's not better for you. You're not going to be the star, like Donnie said. It's not better for you, but it's better for you because you're going to win the game, right? So it depends on what you want. Like if you want to be the star, it's not better for you. If you want to win the game, it's better for you in a lot of scenarios. So it's just a process of thinking about who it is that should take the space at that point in the game. And it's not easy to do. I'm not saying it's easy. It's just something that a lot of people don't think about, period. So if you think about it, you'll definitely win a lot more.
Yep. Okay, next question is basically, what is the impact of each tower in the game? Let's just do the outer towers. Like rank them from most important to least important.
Okay, well, I know a lot of people right now are defending their safe lane tower, and I think a large degree of that is just because, and that's in like 6 to 7K games. I think a large reason for that is just because everybody knows that that's the first tower that people go for because it's the easiest to take. So they're basically, it's this like trending thing. That doesn't make it the most important tower. That makes it, that just makes it like that's what the current trend is. That's what a lot of people are doing right now, just for, just because it's interesting. But that's not the most important tower in my opinion. The most important tower to keep alive for you is the mid lane tower, because that protects all of the jungles. It gives you access to the middle of the map, which there's really nothing else there that gives you access to that. I guess maybe the shrines, but it gives you like instant access to basically get anywhere very quickly on the map. You cannot smoke past it, so it basically protects from smoking to change map orientation without running on your own side of the map. So basically what I'm saying is like if people are like occupying your jungle, for example, and they want to enter into your offlane jungle area, if the mid tower is dead, they can just smoke through it and kill you there. But that's literally not possible without walking uphill and walking through their own jungle without that mid. Like if the mid tower's there, they can't do that. They have to walk through their own jungle, which sucks. And then obviously the mid tower is very close to the Roshan pit. It gives you very easy access to exactly where you want to ward at the Roshan pit, and then it gives you access to like all the river area, all the ward spots. The mid tower is just like fucking insane. The mid tower is insane for sure, which is why losing mid and losing that tower is so bad, and somebody should always go there and pull the creeps off. So that's a really important tower. I would say that probably the safe lane tower is the next most important one to keep. It's just really hard to keep, which is why a lot of people don't do it. It's really hard to keep because there's so much space between the tier 1 and the tier 2, which means there's really good ward vision. People can gank behind the tower without getting punished. It takes a long time to TP to it, because if you TP to the tier 2, you have to do a lot of walking to get to the tier 1. So it's hard to defend, but it's really important to defend because exactly the reasons that I listed. it's very far away from the tier 2, so it gives you a lot of access to your jungle very safely and to the bounty rune that's there. So if you keep that alive, you have access that you otherwise would not have, and you have a lot of access to resources that you would not have in a game where you lose it. A lot of people, like I said, don't defend that tower just because it's so damn hard to defend. And then I would say the last one is the offlane tower. The offlane tower is not all that important because those towers are so close together that if the creep wave is bouncing between the tier 1 and the tier 2 in the offlane, then it's fairly equivalent to the creep wave doing bouncing. The only thing is it protects the bounty rune, and but really TPing to the tier 2 versus the tier 1 there, you see a lot of people defending the tier 1 by TPing to the tier 2 because it's so close. So it's not really a TPing thing, and the shrine is right there too. It's more so like a bounty rune, a bounty rune thing. And that's a hard tower to take. People don't really go for that tower very often, and it's not that important, so people leave it. So that's the outer towers, in my opinion.
Yeah, and then what about tier 2s, do you think?
Tier 2s, I think the mid tier 2 is pretty difficult to take, but it's not all that important because it's not as much of a security of that like Roshan area and the kind of the very center of the map, which obviously is really important. The tier 2s are kind of even. It's hard to say because
yeah, I would say the two top tier 2s are the most important.
To keep alive.
Yeah, once all the tier 1s are gone.
Those are usually the ones people try to take just because they're easier to take than people
Right.
always leave like the entire offlane tier 1 and tier 2 down there because it's so hard to take those. It's very hard to like wrap behind them, and it's easy to defend and right by the shrine, so
Right, but I'm also saying like on Dire side, the top tier 2 is, I would say, the best tier 2 tower as far as like getting to the Roche pit, or defending your shrine, for example. I mean, the mid tier 2 is there as well, but like the top tier 2 is actually closer to the shrine. So the way I think about towers is like if you can teleport 2 people to the same location very quickly, then that's really, really valuable. And like in that case, the tier 2 top and the shrine, you could get 2 people into the jungle very quickly. Like if you were taking a fight there, for example. Just because like if you're staggering TPs, everybody TPing to the same tower, then you're in trouble in like almost every fight.
You can't defend shit basically.
Exactly. So having the ability to put 2 people in the same location quickly is better than 1 for obvious reasons. And if you're trying to take a fight at Roshan and you lose your mid tier 2, but you still have your top tier 2, it's like not. I don't know. It's they're fairly equal.
I actually think that the mid tier 2 is better. It's just more access to like the middle area of the map. The top tier 2 is just so hard, and this is if you're Dire, by the way. So your safe lane tier 2. I was thinking that the like right now that is almost always the lane that is played as the dead lane. So if you lose that tier 2, that's fine because the enemy's going to want to control your jungle anyway because that is the dead lane, and then also that means the creep wave is going to be pushed into your tower, which is fine because you want a support to go take that dead lane and take the dead lane farm. So I think it's actually fine if you lose that tier 2. That's a really good question, by the way, because like these are things in Dota where you're kind of like you have a feeling for it, but you don't really have a fully reasoned out thought process behind it. You just kind of follow what the trends are. But now that I'm thinking about it, that is. I notice in a lot of like 6 to 7K games that tower is just sacked for like a tier 1 or something like that, and that is the safe lane tier 2. And I think the reason for that is largely because the safe lane towers are really hard to defend, but also because that's the lane you don't want to play in anyway. So if that creep wave is pushed to your base, that's great because you can have somebody safely farming. Yeah, where's the mid lane? Like if you push that thing out to your base and you kill one wave, it's already across the river. Whereas like if you allow your safe lane tier 2 to fall, you can kill like 4 waves before you're at the river on their side. Whereas in the mid lane, if you let that tier 2 fall, that's not a useful dead lane to have because you can't push that out. You can't get a bunch of farm there before pushing it out where it's unsafe. You know what I mean? Because it's a shorter distance.
Right.
Because the mid is such a short distance. So now that I'm thinking about it, actually, those side lane tier 2s are a lot more fine to lose, I think. Also, actually, now that I'm thinking about that, if you lose the mid tier 2 and you lose a fight, don't they just head straight down fucking mid and racks you because it's such a short distance? Like, you definitely don't want to lose the mid tier 2. Like,
Yeah,
it's just the shortest distance now that I'm thinking about it.
I don't know. It's really interesting just like to kind of try and reason out what like I mean
It is.
like actually strategically what you do as opposed to like what the trends are people are doing, right? Because I mean when I made the video like Dire and Radiant being imbalanced, one of the things that I was like kind of hypothesizing or theory crafting that you could do to counter the imbalance as Dire would be to like religiously defend your safe lane and then prioritize taking the Radiant offlane tower and then warding like the shrine area in tier 2, so that you would basically like flip what usually happens, which is that Radiant kind of naturally takes like the top side of the map and then Dire naturally takes the bottom side of the map, and Radiant just gets Roche advantage because of that. Whereas like if you could get wards in the right places and like keep your safe lane tower and also take the Radiant off lane, you could maybe kind of like have the top triangle yourself. But
That's a good strat. That's interesting. I like that.
like,
That's good shit.
I don't know if it's actually viable because
No, that definitely sounds
like,
viable, actually. Because you're right. The Radiant takes the Dire jungle 99% of the time. That's the
right.
dead lane. Like, that's where they take. So if you were to do that and then play as if the dead lane is the other lane, I mean, obviously you have to have an advantage to do that, but maybe you build to take a laning advantage so that you can do that.
Yeah, and then you just have to basically shift where you ward to keep securing that area. But like,
Yeah, of course.
um, I don't know. And ultimately, like if you did that, I think that the Dire access to Roche is slightly better, just based on the tower placement.
It's just that you need to take like a lane advantage in order to
Yeah, exactly.
safely be able to do that. It's a cool concept, though. That's a good question. Whoever asked that's a god. That's a good question.
Okay, last question. Oh yeah, this is another good one. These questions were good.
God.
It took us a while to find them, but they're
God
really
damn.
good questions. How do you efficiently learn a new hero?
There's a train going by, so I'll wait. We'll go ahead and wait for that conductor to stop tooting his horn. Okay, so how do you efficiently learn a new hero? It's definitely something. There's definitely a process to it. I would say that your first thing that you want to do is to watch replays of good players, whether it's pros or like semi-pros playing in top tier games. You watch them and see how they play it, just to kind of get a feel for it. Obviously, like if you're talking like total baseline, you can like look up the wiki and the Dota wiki and see like what the spells actually do, whether it pierces spell immunity, all of these things. But then you want to watch how like a good player plays it, because there's always going to be trends. And I say good player, it sounds like I'm saying I'm a good player. I'm not. Like whenever I want to learn a hero, I'll watch like Universe play it or something like that. I mean like the best of the best, because they're going to do the things that really matter on that hero, and they're going to show you very quickly why that hero is picked right now. Like for instance, if you play Necrophos and you don't play it in like a certain role or build certain items with it that the top tier players are, it's going to feel like trash. And that's because the hero is good because of these item builds, because of these choices that people are making. So you definitely want to first look at a replay of it, and then you could play some unranked with that hero. You can just pick it literally first, try to get countered, deal with the counters, get a really good idea of like the skills and who really destroys you. And then you could play it in ranked, and you can kind of pick it in the later stages where, doesn't matter that you get, well, you can't get countered because it's later, so it doesn't matter if there are counters to it, because you're going to pick it in the later phase depending on the hero. But basically you want to watch pro replays, play it in unranked, play it in ranked, and that's it.
It's funny. This is really cool just because, so when I was teaching snowboarding, we had to do a lot of studying of like the learning process, and part of that was differentiating between like the different styles of learning, whether you are like an experiential learner or you learn by somebody explaining something to you, or you learn visually. And so you obviously just took the approach of kind of like basically doing like research, like statistical research first as like your first step to learning something, and then eventually applying the knowledge. And for me, how I learn heroes is I would 100% first just go into a demo lobby and just like mess around with the spells and get a feel for what like controlling the hero feels like. I would definitely want to like feel what the cast points are like, and the cast animations, and the movement, turn rate, that sort of stuff. And then once I kind of understand what it feels like, then I would look at like a pro replay of the hero. And specifically, I would probably look at a pro player playing in a pub, just because, generally
That's
speaking,
where you're gonna play.
yeah, you're not going to play with like a well coordinated team, and so things will be different pretty significantly. And then after that, I wouldn't spend a ton of time looking at the replays. I would maybe like watch one or two, and then I'd want to get more experience actually controlling the hero with that extra knowledge from having watched the pro player. And so then I would play. And for me, I just play ranked all the time. Like it's not the best MMR getting strategy, but for me, like, I just like I need to play ranked. Otherwise, I just don't care about the game, and I'd rather care about the game.
Play party ranked, man.
I mean, sure, like that again. It's probably more efficient to do it that way, but this is what I do. So yeah, play the hero after you've gotten a little bit of experience learning it from a professional player, and then play the ranked, and then probably go back and then watch the pro replay, and then watch your replay and see if you can pick out the differences. And then just do that a few times, and eventually you'll get to a point where you like enough and you have enough feel to where you just kind of need to grind muscle mechanics. And then once you do that, you'll get to a point where you'll have developed some habits and your muscle memory will be good, and then you'll have to go back and like find like the real nuancey stuff that only like the best players in the world are doing.
Hey, shout out to DotaAlchemy.com, by the way, because we have a bunch of stuff on there for how to learn a hero, like drills and exercises and stuff, and works for me. I didn't want to go into it here because it's a lot of information, but there's stuff on there. Check it out, guys.
Yeah, so actually that's a good point, and we'll just shill ourselves a little bit.
Just here. Shill, man. Where we gotta shill.
Just chill here at the end, which is that
I gotta pay rent, man.
One of the things that I've really been wanting to do, and actually Jenkins and I have been talking about this kind of from the beginning, is like, okay, so there's obviously GameLeap.com, there's Pugna, and there's more MMR, and whatever your sort of like video curation site is. But what separates those sites? And one of the things that we really, really wanted to do was to like actually make basically like drills to do. Just because that's how you learn in sports. Like if I wanted to learn to shoot a basketball, you would actually do like drills to develop your wrist and arm coordination. You wouldn't just like play basketball.
Yeah. It's like things you can very literally put into practice immediately after watching the video. Like things you can actually just do, and it will naturally help you get better. Stuff that like personally that I've done, that I've seen growth, and Donnie's done, and we've seen MMR growth since starting to do that. Not like there's like a lot of hypothetical stuff, and I mean obviously we do get into the theoretical and stuff like that, but it's a lot. But I can tell you that from playing on a competitive team, it's really hard. Like a lot of people will tell me things, and I wouldn't really necessarily understand why or how to make changes. It was just I knew I was doing things wrong, and it's like it felt kind of useless, But the players who really helped me grow the most were people that were like, Jenkins, in the next game, do this, or between games, do this to deal with like your anxiety or whatever. Like these things where I actually had something to take a bite out of, like something that actually was something I could do. Like that helped me a lot, and I know that's how I learned. So hopefully there's a lot of people out there that learn like that as well. Like they actually need something to fucking do, as opposed to just like, oh yeah, you did this wrong, you did this wrong, you did this wrong, these players are better than you. It's like, well, fuck, why? Like, what can I do? I want to get better. What can I do about it? Like it feels like hopeless sometimes. But once again, I've learned until this point, it's definitely gotten a lot better doing things than just knowing the hypotheticals.
Exactly. It's like what I was saying. People learn in different ways, and you need all different types of learning, whether it's experiential or somebody telling you like the basics or whatever, or watching somebody do it. You kind of need all of those pieces to actually like really learn something well. And so that's definitely what we're trying to do with our site, is to provide like not just some high MMR person telling you to like play this hero to be good, because it's not like that. It's like you need to actually like learn the mechanics to do it. So anyway, thank you guys for the questions. They're really, really good. Obviously,
this is a good one.
Yeah, we had some really good really good stuff to talk about. I mean, we even learned some stuff theory crafting, like what towers are good. So I'm stoked about that. I'm actually really interested to try out this sort of map control.
Dude, I kind of want to talk
go...
to some people and make a tower video.
Yeah.
Like, I kind of want just get people's opinions on it.
All right, guys. Thank you for watching. Keep the questions coming, and we will do more episodes on a regular basis. And if you are going to TI, it's not too early to say this, I don't think, but if you're going to TI, come find me. I'd love to meet you in person. Sadly, Jenkins won't be there, but he will be there in spirit, and perhaps if you shake my hand at TI, I'll eventually shake his hand, and then by osmosis, you'll have touched the god that is Andrew Jenkins.
Yeah, right. All right. If I grew a beard, I would look like Jesus, though.
All right. See ya.
See ya.